Hello everybody, Toast Bomb here, back bringing you Halo 4 gameplay commentary. Now today we're going to be talking about colors. Yeah, awesome, right? Colors. So if you watch that Halo 4 oddball slash flag assassination little snippet at the Comic-Con Halo 4 panel, you might know what I'm talking about. If you noticed in that video, the team colors were like orange versus purple and like yellow versus green. And some people were like, what's up with this? Is this just randomly for the video? Is this how the game's gonna be? What's up with that? And in the most recent 343 Q&A, that question was answered. And they said they've been looking at every single map, the colors of it, how it looks and all that stuff, and finding out the best opposite team color for that, so that the players will pop out of the environment and you'll always have a nice crystal clear view of everybody on the map no matter what. Now this wasn't really a big issue at all in any other Halo, except for maybe sometimes on like Sand Trap in Halo 3, the red team maybe had a little bit of an advantage at like really long range because the blue teams had like a darker silhouette and stuff, and maybe a few other maps you could kind of blend in a teeny bit, but it really didn't make a difference. But that's not going to happen at all in Halo 4 now. Their players are just going to just light up in the environment, and you're always going to be able to see where they are, which is amazing. This isn't also the only application for this. They also said it'll help out colorblind people, because I've heard that people complain about this mostly in other games, a little bit in Halo 3, that the players just kind of blend in a little bit with the environment. They don't really clash enough for them to be able to make it out, because some of those colors just kind of bleed together and it makes it really hard to make out a target. So this will help a lot for people, because those colors are just going to clash so hard that it'll make it a much easier time for the colorblind folks out there. But by far the reason that I'm excited for this the most is that it would be so easy for them to just say, oh no, it's just red versus blue again, like usual. Yeah, colorblind people, you're kind of out of luck, and people might blend into the background a little bit. It would be so easy just for them to do that and forget about it. But they didn't. They didn't do that. They went in, did the work, which is a little bit of work. It's not a ton of work, but it's something that they could have put into other parts of the game, that work, and figured this out and fixed this little problem that in the grand scheme of things really doesn't make that much of a difference. So if they're really doing that to every single part of the game, looking at it in such fine detail, trying to tune it exactly right, that's what's just gonna bring this thing to a whole new level. Because if you look at one of those tiny little things individually, it really doesn't seem to have that much of an impact. This color thing, without it, with it, in that single little isolated environment, it doesn't look like that big of a deal. But when you start doing that, combined with other little detail-y things, and more little detail-y things, and other things, and eventually you have the entire game super, super, super polished and just flowing amazingly, that's when you just get to this whole nother level of amazing. So it really seems like they're putting that amount of effort into this game that's required to do something like that. And that makes me super hopeful for it, because, people, they have the right to, be skeptical. It's changing in new ways. It's a new team. It's a new development team. 343, no longer Bungie. And they're doing their own thing with it. But they seem to be doing a really good job and really not dropping the ball on any sort of fine detail. Because so far, I can't really find anything wrong with the game. Obviously I haven't played it, which is a big factor, but just looking at it from the outside, there's no glaring issues. Like it doesn't seem like any sort of other game. Feels like Halo, looks like Halo, but they've just gone in and done these extra things, gone the extra mile, to really put that game to the next level. An example, even though I think you guys understand, but I just thought of this recently, so an example would kind of be like me and my friend, we just recently installed a new air filter into his car, and it added some horsepower and stuff like this, and we're just like, oh, well, why didn't they just add this originally in the car? Why wasn't it just like this? It increased the gas mileage, made it more powerful, sound way cooler, and it was just way better overall. Like, why didn't they do it? It was just a couple $100. Well, if you look at it, that's a higher quality part, and in that little situation, yeah, they could have done that. But then you start looking at other things, and you're like, okay, why didn't they just make that a teeny bit better, or that a teeny bit better, or that a teeny bit better? And if you do that to everything, suddenly your car is 3 times more expensive, and that's not what the company wants. They want to have a cheaper sort of vehicle, but still have it run well. Luckily for us, 343 isn't this kind of company. They want their game to be the most intense, fastest car ever. And they're not cutting corners on this game. They're just not. Well, I mean, I'm sure they are, but not very many. And they're working super hard to make that a reality. And that's awesome. And then one last thing is, don't be really hard on the developers, because I haven't seen this as much this time around, but I saw it a lot on Reach and stuff like this. Don't be hard on the developers. It comes back to that be positive sort of thing that I was talking about before. They work so hard right now for the next, they have been for the past 2 months and will be until the game's release. Everybody in that studio working 12 plus hours a day, probably even 7 days a week, just working their butts off to get this game as ready as it can possibly be by the end. So be polite to the developers, because they get a lot of crap from people, and that doesn't feel good when you've been pouring your life into this game for the past 4 years. And then one last thing on the in the previous video I was talking about how there's not as much reason for a beta, and like now it's a lot easier to put out, for the companies to put out updates and stuff like this. Well, recently, this huge little thing, alright, whatever. Well, this thing happened with a game on Xbox Live Arcade called Fez, where some people, if they saved or something like that at a certain point of this in the game, for whatever reason, the game save would get lost or destroyed or something, and they'd have to start all over. And this was not intentionally in there, so they were asking for there to be some sort of update to fix this issue, even though it was a very small percentage of people that this issue happened for. And the developers were like, sorry guys, we can't, because the Xbox certification process for putting out a patch, even if it's just a patch, like a small update, that cost the company $40,000 to put out a patch, even if it's just a tiny little thing like tweaking something to put out to fix the save issue. $40,000, and that game was made by 2 people, and they just didn't have the money. So it costs a lot of money for companies to put out these patches, and I didn't know that before. Just letting you guys know for future games that you see or anything like that, that on the Microsoft side, it's tough for people to get these things out there. So yeah, just a little bit of news. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked the video, you can leave a like or a comment. If you really like the video, you can subscribe, because I post new Halo videos every day.